In this video today, we're going to take a look at exporting data from a spreadsheet file into a database file. And essentially what we're trying to do is take an established data set that is within a spreadsheet file so that it can be used within the tools of a database file. And I'm specifically going to be using the softwares of the Microsoft platform. So I'm going to be using as my spreadsheet file, Microsoft Excel, and I want to take this data from an Excel file and import it into my Microsoft Access database file. All right, so here is my data set and it's related to a game sales store. And I have all these records about different games. I have an established primary key and I have rows of records relating to the sales of each of the different games of the store. So I want to export this data, but not necessarily all of this data. And that's the first thing I want to point out here. There's only specific data that I do want to export. And I've actually set up a sheet containing the data that I really want to focus on for this export that's going to go into my database file. You'll notice specifically I've also gotten rid of the primary key. Reason being is that when I actually do import this data into Microsoft Access, I want it to assign the actual primary keys itself so that it can do more with it, and it's actually best to set it up within there for better functionality of the database file once it does get imported. So I've brought the fields in the order that I want them to be, and I've actually named this sheet Game Sales Export. What I'm hoping that, albeit of formatting, the actual order of the fields and records will appear the same when it does get imported into my database file. So I am going to jump over now to Microsoft Access as my database file, and I want to do this import here. So in order to do that, I have to get an external data source. So as we can see here at the top, there actually is a tab called External Data. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to select New Data Source. I'm going to go from File and I'm specifically going to select an Excel file. So the next step is it wants to know where this file is located. So I'm going to browse and I'll have to actually go through my directories in order to find it. And here is my data source file, the game sales spreadsheet file. I'm going to double click on that. Then down here, I have two radio buttons asking what I wish to do with this import. In this instance, I just want to import the data into this specific file. This file has already been set up as my game store database. So I'll be going to import the source data into a new table within this current database. I'm going to click OK. Now it's going to start mocking up what the database table will look like. So here I can see an arrangement of fields, but as we saw with my spreadsheet file, I had multiple sheets set up, and specifically I wanted to import the game sales export sheet. Reason being is it had the fields arranged the way that I want them. This is why it's an important good best practice to actually have an export sheet that is arranged the way you want it. So here I can see the fields I specifically wanted to have when I actually do this import into the database file. I'm going to go next, and then on this second page of the wizard, it's highlighted the actual field names. Okay, knew that my top row was the field names of the database, having them appear the way that I want them. So that looks like it's working correctly. I'm going to go to the next part of the wizard, and now it's asking me about all my fields, what data type I want them to have. This is changeable, but it also does understand that they were already set up in the spreadsheet file. For game title, short text is fine. For manufacturer, short text is fine. It's really actually the last two fields which relate to currency that I want to make sure that are being brought across correctly. So with my price field, yep, it's recognized that it was a currency data type, and my total income also has still come across as a currency data type. That's good because that's what I want to make sure that when it actually comes in and creates this database table, it retains that data type. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go next. And then this is what I was mentioning at the beginning about the ID field as the primary key. It will automatically set up the actual ID field for me. And by allowing the database file to do this, it can set it up as an auto number that will maintain the numeric order once I start adding new records to this database too in that automatic fashion. That's why in this instance, it's probably best for me to allow the database file to set up its own ID field as the primary key for each of these records instead of me bringing it across from the spreadsheet file. So I'm happy that it's doing it this way in order for functionality moving forward. I'm going to click next. Okay, it's asking me to name this table. I'm happy for it to stay as game sales, but this is no longer an export. It's going to be my game sales table. So I've just gotten rid of the export. I'm going to go finish. And then basically at first it's looking like a blank screen, but it's actually over here under tables where I can now see game sales. I'm going to double click. And here is the table existing within my database file now in the format that I wanted it to appear, with the fields that I wanted to appear, appropriate field names, correct data types, but now in a database file where I can do different functionalities with it. I can now run queries, create forms, create reports, all the tools of a database file, and the reason that I'd want to have it here. Obviously, a very quick and efficient procedure by doing the import, because the alternative is I'd have to manually type out all these records again. So it's excellent to know how we can simply move data from a spreadsheet file into a database file. And I hope this video helps you understand this. And really, we do this so we can use the functionalities of different software. So I hope this video has helped you understand how to move data from a spreadsheet file into a database.